Danger, Dr. Danfield.
You know, Rusty, I'd like to know the value of an original Edgar Allan Poe manuscript and what the chances are of one being discovered that hadn't been accounted for previously.
Oh, I don't see how you can... Dan, someone's behind that pile of boxes.
Yes, we better... Hey, who turned off those lights?
Dan, the pile of boxes is moving.
Look out, Rusty, they're coming over at us!
Dr. Daniel Danfield, student of crime psychology, has many times provided police with the solution to a baffling case. And at times, too, the alert Dr. Danfield has found that his pet theories on the workings of the criminal mind must be subject to change without notice. There's another interesting case ahead for the doctor today. Let's see how he handles it. Our story opens in an antique shop located in an old part of the city. It's early morning.
Good morning, Mr. Exeter.
Hey? Who the devil are you? What are you doing here?
Why, I'm Maurice, Mr. Exeter. Don't you remember? You hired me 3 months ago.
Really?